Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the In the Flat podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Kill, joined this week by Jess Saban and Jordan Schultz. So, obviously, there's a lot of different types of news and updates this week in college football. So, we'll start off with kind of reviewing the previous bowl games that happened last week. We'll give a little update on some of the comings and goings and recruiting, the transfer portal, NFL declarations. We'll talk a little bit of bowl preview for the next week, and then wrap it up with kind of a review of the current transfer portal. If there's anybody sticking out there and what it's going to look like for some teams. So let's start off first. I'm going to quickly recap all the bowl games that we've seen so far. Then you guys give me any of your thoughts that you have. So starting off first, last Friday, we had UAB beating Miami, Ohio 24-20. Uh, Definitely a pretty good bowl. It was back and forth, kind of grind you out type game. Troy beat UTSA 18-12 in the first ranked matchup of the bowl season. So, little, I expect a little more firepower there, but it was a good win for Troy. Louisville and Cincinnati. Louisville won 24-7. Obviously, they both had coaching changes, and there's a lot of opt outs, but Louisville obviously has more superior recruiting at this point, so they're able to get that victory over Cincinnati. Oregon State just completely dominated Florida 30-3, and Florida got a late field goal to even make it 3 points. I mean, that game was this annihilation bear by Oregon State. It's a good win by them. Fresno State with a great win over Washington State 29-6. Southern Miss beat Rice 38-24. BYU won a thriller there against SMU 24-23. Boise State won a closer game than I expected against North Texas 35-32. And then just going to final, Marshall beating Connecticut 28-14. So those are the recent bowl games. I don't think there was any crazy surprise other than, to me, Oregon State just dominated Florida. But start with you, Jordan. Anything stand out to you? Any highlights from the first part of the bowl season?
No, not really. I think we expected a lot of these games. I think the Oregon State blowout is a big thing to look at. Just Oregon State's going to go into next year with that big win. But I think it's more of the fact of Florida just, a lot of their players opted out. I think a lot of transfers. I just don't think the team, was fully
Was motivated.
available, fully ready. And, just motivated. Looking at some of the plays like that went around, you had the defensive linemen just kind of half
Walking, I
running,
saw that. Yeah.
walking. Yeah. So I think this right now, these bowl games don't really matter. I don't know what it is. I think we get to that 12-team playoff, I think it's going to be a lot better. But other than that, I just want to highlight, one of the games, Southern Miss, Frank Gore Jr.
God, yeah, I saw that.
21 carries, 329 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That I
Yeah,
mean,
but I think there's
monster.
going to be a Frank Gore in the NFL forever at this point.
I
This was
wouldn't be
coming.
surprised.
Yeah,
And the good
especially
thing
for Southern
for
Miss.
Southern Miss is that he's staying. I heard he told them he's not transferring. He's staying, which is a good sign for the team, and I think it's a good sign for him. I
We'll
think.
see. Somebody's gonna offer him like $1 million. He's
I
gonna
don't
he's
know.
gonna be
His
out of there.
look at his dad, dude. His
Well,
dad
yeah, I guess he
makes him.
doesn't need the money, right?
He
I
doesn't
guess.
need the money.
Yeah. Let's see.
But no, a lot of these games kind of went the way I thought. I thought UTSA should have pulled this game out. Just looking at stats, they had 200 more total, or 150, or yeah, almost 200 yards more total yards than Troy. I don't know. It just these bowl games were kind of slow and kind of a little boring in my eyes.
What's tough, you have if you have people opting out, you have new people stepping up to different roles. You have maybe new quarterbacks that haven't played before, so you're kind of almost like a practice for next year in some cases. And then it's just tough out there. So, for me, the other big thing, my poor Washington State team just fell apart this end of the year. Fresno State just really
Stop. Yeah,
took it to them.
you need to stop picking teams.
I
That's
do. It's a jinx, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I just won't go for Notre Dame next year. Maybe they'll have a better season. So, all right,
You
Jess.
say as you wear a Notre Dame sweatshirt right now.
Well,
Jess. You're the one that
I
doesn't
didn't say it
never
was going to
picks
happen
Notre
right
Dame.
away. I'm not going to rip the band-aid off right away.
The,
Um,
every time I've picked Notre Dame, they've lost.
No,
I'm pretty sure.
BYU. Oh, you picked BYU. Mm,
I picked BYU.
yeah.
yeah, well, all right. enough about Jeff's past failures there. Let's talk a little bit about how Jeff. What anything stood out to you, other than what we already talked about?
Well, kind of a bit of a side note. Did you see Frank Gore Jr.'s interview after the game, where he was like, he had to tell off like his grandma because she was getting too
I
excited, she was
did.
running into the camera or something.
Yeah, it was like was it Anne or Grandma? I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, it's like that was pretty funny. He was yelling at him to get out of there. So
I just that's the one stat I also didn't put on is that I guess Frank Gore Jr. threw 3 passes, was 2 for 3, and a touchdown.
oh, yeah,
Can
so
do it all.
Yeah, man, he's gonna be the next quarterback on your team. Wait for it.
could be better than some of these guys out here that are playing in these bowl games. So,
I think
anything else that's out of you, Jeff?
the best game that I've seen was the North Carolina Central versus Jackson State game.
Oh yeah, I didn't talk about that one. That's right.
Yeah, that was a great game. I feel so bad for that tight end who dropped.
I missed the ball. God, man, that's
There was a video of him just like crying in the locker room and Dion trying to talk to him, trying to get him to pick his head up. The video was kind of released about that after. There's a whole bunch of speculation, especially with Dion leaving. How many of these guys, they just aren't good enough to move up to Colorado, take that step up. So it's, but I was still a heck of a game to end the season on there for Jackson State. Other than that, I had Oregon State over Florida. I didn't think it was going to be quite that bad, but
yeah.
Florida, they've got some work to do. With Richardson, I'm pretty sure he declared, right? Yeah. He declared. Their guard, Cyrus Johnson, something like that. Terrace Cyrus, something like that. I'm pretty sure. Either way, he's going to be like the top guard in the draft. You got Paris Johnson out of Ohio State, the tackle out of Georgia, and then the tackle out of Northwestern. So he's going to be the top guard in this upcoming draft. They're going to have some key pieces to replace there, but I have a feeling Florida's going to have some rough years ahead of them.
Yeah, they're recruiting okay right now, but it all really comes down to, can you get a dynamic quarterback, but you got to also have the offensive line to protect them at the same time, and they haven't had that, and they haven't had the defense has been really what's been killing them these last couple of years. So, and I hope he can come in and recruit right away. The transfer portal is going to be their best friend. They're going to have to get in there to just really get some good players in the transfer portal to change things up right away.
Osiris Torrance. That's his name.
There we go.
I knew Cyrus was a part of there.
I think you're right. I think might be a long couple years ahead, but we'll see what happens. All right, let's jump into this is early signing day this week, starting on Wednesday. So we'll talk a little recruiting today. We'll talk a little transfer portal and all that. So let's start off first with a major quarterback flip that happened today. So a top 10 player in the 2023 class, Dante Moore, was committed to Oregon. I won't go into how he silently committed to Notre Dame and messed up their whole recruiting plans. So I'll talk about that every podcast. But then he flipped to UCLA with Chip Kelly. So that was an interesting flip today. And I think part of it is he wants to start right away. And I think right now UCLA will have that open. He might have an opportunity to come in early and win a competition to have a chance there. Is this what Chip Kelly needs? Is that top level quarterback to run his system? Is this kind of the start of something special in UCLA? What do you think, Jordan?
I think they had a decent quarterback this year. And the biggest thing I think he decommitted, is because Bo Nix said he's going to stay.
Yes.
I think if Bo Nix said he wasn't staying, then this guy knows he's going to be that guy that could change a team maybe, and if he gets into the right system, he can really, play those 3 years and have really good years and then go to that draft. But I think he wants only those 3 years. I don't think he wants to stay any longer, and I don't think if he was sat behind someone for a year, the 2 years wouldn't have helped him. I think, and I think I definitely think UCLA has a better offensive mindset than Oregon does right now, and I think he'd fit better there.
Yeah, I think his reasoning, he said, for decommitting was he committed mainly to Oregon because of their offensive coordinator, Kenny Dillingham, who obviously took on the Arizona State head coaching job. He said it was a combination of that and a combination of UCLA is in the Big Ten. Obviously, he's in your neck of the woods there in Michigan, and so playing for UCLA, they're actually going to be around in the Big Ten country quite a bit. His family will get a chance to see him play more and things like that. So already a little bit of the Big Ten movement is hurting Oregon compared to UCLA. So that's something to keep an eye on there. All right, let's move this around here. Texas running back Bijan Robinson entered the 2023 NFL Draft. Jess, if you were an NFL GM, would you take him in the first round?
There's only one. There's only one team. He's projected to currently be the highest drafted running back since Saquon. But there's only one team I can see in the top 10 who would take a risk drafting him, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles, because they've got the pick from the Saints, which is projected to be a very high draft pick right now, though, with how terrible the NFC South is. Who knows where it's going to end up. But other than that, maybe a team like Buffalo, if they're looking to really add some dynamic running back, but that's going to be back in the first round kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of these teams in the middle, I mean, this is a great draft if you love defense. You've got a couple of linebackers projected first round, a whole bunch of edge rushers projected first round. You've got a couple defensive tackles projected high first round. You've got picks in the secondary. There's I think 6 to 7 DBs corners specifically that can go in the first. A couple safeties, Antonio Johnson, Battle out of Alabama. These guys are going to be fighting for that first round draft selection spot. Running back is not valued the way it is anymore, but I think Bijan, he's going to go round 1. But if the Eagles don't take him with that Saints pick, if it stays in the top 10, it might take a team trading back up into the first to take him. There's just so much defensive talent. And then obviously, with how the NFL is these days, you've got all of the wide receivers. So you have no idea where they're going to go. Addison, Johnson, Smith and Jigba, Rashee Rice, Hyatt out of Tennessee, and Tillman out of Tennessee. There's a lot of guys that are going to be in that fringe late first, early second range, and being a running back, it might just push him back towards the end of the first.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I'm kind of the same. Running back is not as valuable as it used to be. If this was, 10, 20 years ago, he might be top 5 pick. But honestly, kind of looking at the teams in the first round, I honestly feel like he might be a good fit in Baltimore, right there next to Lamar Jackson. J.K. Dobbins, they drafted him to be a difference maker. He's been injured. Even the backups behind him has been injured, so they might need somebody to come in there and just pound the rock a bit to help get a little bit of that load off of Lamar Jackson. Any thoughts here before we move forward, Jordan?
No, I don't think Bijan's going to be a first round. I don't think he was a good running back in college. I think with that injury he had, and being out for so long, I think it's going to really hinder. And the reason Saquon Barkley was picked in the first round is because Saquon Barkley was one of the best college running backs ever. And I just don't see Bijan. I think the teams you said definitely could use him, and I think we can easily see him picked. I just don't see him picked in the top 10. If he's not picked in the top 10 early, and he's not going to get picked to the second round.
Here's the current top 10. Houston at 1, they're not taking him. Chicago at 2, no way. Seattle with that pick from Denver, no chance. Arizona at 4, do they need a running back?
No.
Maybe, but they're not going to take him. Detroit from the Rams, they're not going to take him. Indianapolis, no. Atlanta, maybe, but I would put money on no. Carolina, no. They're just total rebuild. They're not starting with a running back. Then you got the Philadelphia Eagles at 9 from New Orleans. I could see it happening.
And their running back is a free agent, right? If I
Yeah, both
recall.
of their running backs are free agents, but then you've got Green Bay at 10. They've got Jones, so probably not. And they
So
got
definitely
AJ
not top
Dillon
10,
as well.
probably.
And if
Yeah,
he
I can
doesn't
see
go
bottom
to
half.
Philadelphia at 9, Vegas, no. Jacksonville, no. Houston again. Yeah, at best, I see him. If Philly doesn't take him, he's falling to the end of the first round. So
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, let's move ahead here. Navy is promoting its defensive coordinator Brian Newberry to the head coaching role. He has been the defensive coordinator there since 2019. So we'll see if he can improve that program. I don't know if that was expired hiring, but he knows the program, knows what needs to happen. So I think that's probably why they went a little bit familiarity there. As you mentioned, Jordan Bonex has announced he's coming back. With that announcement, what do you think, Jordan? You think he played really well. I didn't even know he had another year eligibility left. He played really well this year. Do you see him taking even a farther step for Oregon next year?
I think so. I think he's gonna, expand on, coming in this year and playing. You got to remember though, having another year eligibility doesn't matter anymore. We're at 9 for the tight end.
Right.
So he was a freshman in 2016. We're past eligibility right now. Okay, but
they should let them play as long as they want in college and get paid for it.
Yeah, why not, right?
Get doctorates. Who cares?
But I definitely think Bo Nix is going to expand on that, and if they can bring in some good weapons in recruiting and transfer portal, I think he'll grow and be a better, especially with the second year coach at that point. I think the game plan and everything is going to be a little shift, and a lot's going to be changed for going in for him, because they have a whole off season instead of a shorter off season with him.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's move ahead here. TCU quarterback and Heisman finalist Max Duggan has announced he's going for the NFL draft. He will still play in the college football playoff. So he threw for over 3,300 yards this year, 30 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's a senior that graduated this month. He did have 1 year eligibility left due to the COVID year, which is why a lot of people are getting extra years. But he decided to go ahead and go pro. And this will be his last hurrah here in the playoffs. So, Jess, watch him play. Do you think he has a shot to be a difference maker in the NFL?
It's always so hard when it comes to quarterbacks because you never know. He's a little on the smaller side, 6'2", about 210, 215. He doesn't have tremendous physical traits, but I could definitely see him becoming a serviceable starter in the NFL if he's put into the right situation. I mean, if you think about a lot of the top quarterbacks who have been drafted recently, Herbert, Allen, Mahomes, guys like that, even guys like Lamar and Kyler Murray, they all had some physical trait that truly separated them from the rest of the pack, be it arm talent or mobility. Max Duggan doesn't really have any of that. He's not like some crazy athlete. He doesn't have an absolute mega cannon for an arm. And he's a tad undersized. I mean, the standard height, the average height of a quarterback in the NFL is like around 6'4". Weight, you probably want to be up there a little bit above 220. And obviously he can put on some muscle, but I don't think he's going to be growing in height anymore. But I think he's going to be like a 3rd, 4th round draft pick, and some team, they're going to have him come in, be a, backup for a little bit. Maybe he'll get a shot at being a starter for a team that's in a transition period and he can prove his stuff. I had a little bit of a theory when Houston had their pick and then the Browns pick, and they were both projected like top 3, top 4. I was saying, maybe Houston could go Will Anderson and Jalen Carter with those 2 picks and then look for a Max Duggan in the 3rd, 4th round to challenge Davis Mills there, build up the rest of the roster. But I mean, I can't see Duggan being a 1st-round pick going to a Houston and having success. He's not that kind of guy.
Yeah, I kind of look at him as maybe like a Baker Mayfield type, where he has some talent and he has those intangibles to win. But the physical traits kind of catch up to him in some of those games. So, he could catch on though. I mean, I don't think Tom Brady wasn't the most athletic person in the world, but he
pieces were
did
around
okay.
him.
Yeah, for sure. You make the pieces around him, he could be a good game manager for you and win some games. So at least until you're able to get maybe the quarterback in the future. All right, let's talk some more here. Quarterback Dylan Raiola is the number one prospect in 2024 class. He decommitted from Ohio State this week. He is the son of the former Nebraska All-American, longtime Detroit Lions center Dominique Raiola, who is now currently the offensive line coach at Nebraska. They switched over pretty much all the staff there in Nebraska, but they kept him on. I don't know why that would have done that, but all signs are pointing at him potentially going to Nebraska. Jordan, would this be the game changer that Nebraska needs to get back to, its old glory?
See, I don't know. With this, like Jeff Sims just said he's going to Nebraska, so I don't know what's
2024. So Jeff Sims is really coming in 2023. So
yeah, but I could see him flipping. I think where Nebraska's going, the coach they have, his ties to it, I can see him switching up, going to Nebraska. I think he knows that he won't have to fight too hard to get that starting job, and I think he wants to be, I don't know, he might want to be where a team he knows hasn't had success in the last couple of years, and he wants to grow and make them a successful name. And he might, get that new air conditioning deal for the NIL here soon.
Now that DeColdis has left.
DeColdis left, so he might get that new thing. But no, I think he's more. In my eyes, I think he's probably going to hit Nebraska. Why would you decommit from a school like Ohio State to not go to Nebraska?
Yeah, you get a chance to be with your dad and a new coach that you probably more believe in. You probably didn't believe in the last coach, so that's why you didn't commit there.
And not a lot of people believe in Ryan Day. So
yeah, he's got a lot of heat now lately, especially the quarterback room has kind of turned over a bit. Where there's some talented players, but they're not like top of the line, top 5-star players that Ohio State is used to having.
What I could see is them starting to lose some wide receiver commits just because they're not going to have that quarterback to make them where they are.
There's rumors already at the 5-star that they just signed number one wide receiver in 2024. They're worried about him because he committed because they had that quarterback. So that could be happening down the road. So we'll see. All right, some other news here, transfer news here. Wisconsin has landed a quarterback in Nick Evers. He's a true freshman. He played for Oklahoma this year. Didn't actually play. He was a 4-star in high school. Had a really good list of offers. He's transferred over to Wisconsin. They have after Graham Mertz has left, he might be able to go in there and get some playing time right away for Wisconsin. He's a mobile quarterback with a strong arm, and that might be what Wisconsin needs to kind of take that next level of Luke Fickell. So it's going to be kind of interesting to watch there. All right, let's move ahead here. Some more news. So Travis Hunter, obviously from Jackson State, he's in the transfer portal. He's the former number 1 recruit, but now it's where he's playing yet. I don't know where he could possibly go, but it's probably going to be Colorado. It seems that's where he's leaning, but he's the number 1 cornerback in last year's 2022 class. So if he follows Deion, he's a 5-star, already getting some 5-star transfers in, which would be what I'm sure Deion needs there to get that thing up and rolling. Speaking of potential transfers from Jackson State, Shadoro and Shiloh Sanders, both sons of Deion, have entered the transfer portal as well. Shadoro threw for 3,300. I don't know. It's a realist prize. I mean, it could go anywhere. But Shadoro threw for 3,300 yards, 36 touchdowns. He was I would say 3-4-star kind of borderline player and out of high school. So he has some talent. I don't know if he's as talented as Colorado needs to win right away, but I don't think Deion's going to not go to his son. So that probably is what Colorado's looking at, but it's probably better what Colorado has today because they were terrible last year. So anybody have any thoughts? How do we think Colorado's going to do? I know it's not open yet. There's plenty of transfer out there, but Jess, do you think they're going to have they're on 1 game this year, right? Do we think they're going to get back up to 5 or 6 wins next year?
Yeah. I mean, I think with college ball more so than professional, obviously, talent can make up for a lot of other things. And, maybe some of these games, it's so hard to say because you see all of these like top names, Deion Sanders, the prime time has so much pull, but they're not going to be competing for the playoff next year. But I think they're going to have enough talent come in. I think he seems to have brought in a strong staff so far, and they're going to be able to get, I'd say at most, they get 7 wins next year. But by this time next year, in a couple years, yeah, if this kind of all of these names and these 4 or 5 star guys keep going to them, I could definitely see them being a top 10 team. But it's just a matter of Deion's got to be able. Deion and his staff have to prove that they can coach these guys up at this level. Like,
Yeah, that's my
just,
worry, because watching that Jackson State game, the last 2 years in the bowl, they came up short against, and they have much with him coming on. They have much more talent than the teams they've been playing, and they lose those games, and so that concerns me. It shouldn't be like the end all be all, but it concerns me that when the talent level is has more, he struggles. He's gonna have less coming into Colorado, at least against some of the bigger Pac-12 teams. And so, how is he gonna overcoach that? Now he has some good coaching staff that's coming in that can probably help him more than he got help last year. But that would be my concern coming into Colorado season next year.
Deion cannot afford to become a new version of Jimbo Fisher, where he's getting these top guys because of name and brand recognition and the theoretical opportunities he can provide them, with his connections and everything, and then they just don't win. Like,
Yeah,
he has to be able to bring these guys in, coach them up, get them to take those next steps, and he does that, and Colorado's golden. I mean, I know it's so much easier said than done, and that's not exactly the most in-depth analysis ever, but
yeah,
if he wants to prove that his success at Jackson State wasn't just because, it was HBCU, it was lower level college football, and that, he was going 12-1 or whatever and only losing in the bowl games, he's got to show that he can actually coach and not just acquire talent.
no, for sure. Yeah, next year's gonna be interesting. I'd think the year after that's gonna be even more interesting. When maybe the newness has worn off a bit. People are like, I really don't, Deion's okay. He didn't really prove nothing to me this year. I don't want to join there right now. And it's a little harder to recruit. Right now, he can just say, hey, I'm Deion Sanders, come play for me. And people might be excited to do that, but that might not last forever. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let's jump into the transfer portal a bit here. I'll go through some of the top names, and we can give you an update of where they are. We just talked about Travis Horter. He's rated as #1 recruit in the transfer portal, so obviously he's trending toward Colorado. Ernest Hausman, he's a linebacker from Nebraska. He has committed to Michigan. Speaking of Michigan, they've had like five or six, maybe even more players out of the transfer portal already commit on the offensive and defensive lines. They're really loading up, and I think that's where if you're Michigan, that's what you do. I mean, you have a trouble recruiting right now, even though you're winning a lot. And so go out and get these established guys to fill in those holes. I think that's what Michigan's doing right now. Let me see if anybody else. So we have Devin Leary. He is being crystal ball to Kentucky. It seems like that's where he's kind of trending, where he might end up. So I think that would be a good fit for him there, and a good fit for Kentucky. Jaheim Ball, I think we talked about him last week, but the tight end out of South Carolina is committed to Florida State. Javon Cohen, the offensive lineman from Alabama, is committed to Miami. Miami's another team. They're just picking up people left and right. Their NIL deals are a little outrageous at this point. So we'll see if that pays off for him to end. Nothing new on Hudson Carr. Deshaun McCullough, he's the edge player, one of the top edge players on a D-line. He's committed to Oklahoma out of Indiana. Ladarius Henderson, offensive lineman, committed to Michigan. Dorian Singer today, he was one of the top freshman wide receivers in the Pac-12. Has committed to USC, so another wide receiver there for them to have. They don't have enough wide receivers. Eric All, the Michigan tight end, has committed to Iowa, so that's a good fit for them. Dante Cephas, the talented wide receiver out of Kent State, is currently crystal ball to Penn State. Colin Sheely is a quarterback. He's currently committed to UCLA. So that's going to be an interesting battle with him and Dante Moore there. We already talked about Sanders. DJU, nothing new on him. Chris Marshall, the wide receiver, has committed, or not committed, but crystal ball to TCU out of Texas A&M. Trayshawn Holden is a wide receiver out of Alabama. He's committed to Oregon. And then the top 25 here, offensive tackle Dylan Wade out of Tulsa is currently not trending anywhere yet, but he has some visits lined up there in the South, so probably end up with an SEC team. So that's the transfer portal. Before I move on to bowl game previews, you guys have any thoughts on any of those?
Just looking at Colin Sheely or Shickley, whatever. I'm not good with names. He's from the class of 2019, so I think Dante Moore might come in. He might leave at that point. Go to the draft or whatever he's going to do. Because then he has.
Well, I mean, he has next
2019,
year.
and
He has next year to play, right? And so Dante Moore wants to play next year. Then they might have a battle on their hands.
I think that's good. I think that'll make Dante Moore better.
Yeah, well, either one. You got to put him in a competition. You can't just give it to someone. And so it's good to have that extra depth. And then if he beats out Dante Moore and he's ready, then Dante Moore can improve throughout the year, just like other teams have done. Once you know that you kind of reach your ceiling with the other quarterback, throw the freshman in and see what he could do later on in the season.
And Michigan is number 1 in transfers right now.
Yep, they're doing good.
Number 1 is Michigan. Number 2 is UCLA. Number 3 is Florida State. Number 4 is Oklahoma. And number 5, surprisingly, in my eyes, is Iowa.
Iowa.
Well, they got the quarterback from Michigan and tight end from Michigan, so that's probably where they're giving in that. But yeah, they're loading up on like offensive talent because they're trying to improve that offensive room because it's been so terrible the last couple of years. So hope that does it for them. We'll see.
Yeah,
doubt it.
It will. I think they're going to have a better offense next year. Their defense is if name not all every national championship team, but most national championship teams that have a great defense have an average offense. Last year, Georgia had one of the best defenses ever, but had an but above average offense, and that's why they won. You gotta have, if you have a great defense, you need that average offense to do something. And Iowa, if they just had an average offense, I think Iowa would have been in the Big Ten championship and won it the last 2 years.
They had the second worst offense in the country this year. Only offense that was worse was New Mexico.
But it's not even offense. It's the second worst quarterback. Their quarterback was just so bad.
I blame it on the offensive coordinator. It's if you know what you have on the offense, you got to put them in a position to do something better than what they have been doing the last couple of years. It's pretty terrible. So
yeah, all right. You're not wrong.
Let's move ahead to bowl previews. So I'm gonna go through these quickly. You guys just gave me instant thought of who you think is gonna win. So we'll start off with have to go for all these bowl names again. Eastern Michigan versus San Jose State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Obviously, this is played in Boise, Idaho. This is 8-4 Eastern Michigan, 7-4 San Jose State. Jess, who you got?
I have got. Let's see. I'm going through my bowl mania here because I've been checking it. I've got San Jose State. Don't really have much of a reason. I just got a gut feeling for them. I can't say I've followed too much of San Jose State or Eastern Michigan this year, but I don't know. I got a feeling about San Jose State, and I picked them for my bowl mania.
All right, gotta stay true to that. All right, Jordan, what do you got?
I got San Jose State too. They have better wins in their 7-4 season than Eastern Michigan, and they have better offensive play. I just think that they are a better team all around.
Yep, I picked San Jose State as well. Their defensive line is surprisingly one of the better ones in the country. It's in the best in the nation in sacks and tackles for loss, and that Eastern Michigan offense really doesn't do much to move the line. So I think that the line will win the day, and San Jose State will win that one. All right. Next up, we have Liberty versus Toledo in the Roof Claim boca.com, Boca Raton Bowl. And obviously, this is in Boca Raton, Florida. So there's a beautiful place to play, if nothing else. So again, you have Liberty 8-4, Toledo 8-5. So pretty solid matchup here. Jordan, who you got?
I got Toledo. Um, Liberty lost their head coach. If I'm not wrong.
They did. Hugh
Yeah.
Freeze is now in on the
What are they gonna play for? Their interim coach.
pride. Jordan, pride.
What kind of pride?
Team pride.
I got Toledo. I think, Toledo just Liberty's been all over the place. I feel like this whole year, and I just don't have any faith in them. So give me Toledo in that rootclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl.
All right, Jess, do you agree?
No, I've got Liberty. They've beaten BYU, and they've beaten Arkansas, and they have, what is it, like 4 losses going into this into the bowl season. That they lost by 1 to Wake Forest. They lost by 3 to Connecticut. They lost by 1 to Virginia Tech. And
Can we just say that one loss you just said about UConn losing to 3? UConn had 1 win last year.
Yeah, but they got 6 this year.
I think part of it, though, is that Hugh Freeze has kind of checked out the last few games of the season. And so will that mean that the new coach staff will get them checked in? Who knows? I think that's.
They got the brakes beaten off of them by New Mexico State, I believe it was. New Mexico State, 49-14. But I think they've got a more impressive resume.
All right, I'm picking Toledo. I think Liberty, turns the ball over quite a bit, and Toledo really takes opportunities, with those turnovers. But they have to run well, and I think they just really have to play a really solid game where they don't turn the ball over and they just keep the ball, win a time of possession, and they can win this one. But I think it should be a close game. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout either way. All right, next up here we have the South Alabama versus Western Kentucky R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl there in New Orleans. So we have South Alabama at 10-2, Western Kentucky 8-5. South Alabama may be the best team you haven't heard about. Everything I've kind of read and studied this as I was getting ready for the podcast. It came really close to beating UCLA. It was like a really tough battle with Troy before they lost that one. They play a really high-scoring, they're a high-scoring team. They play some really good games. So I'm going with South Alabama here. I think they'll come out here and smoke Western Kentucky. But Andreas, do you agree?
Yep. Not much to say. I picked them, and they average it looks like nearly 30 a game this year. So, and only thing is, a lot of their games seem like 1-2 possession kind of games. I don't know if a lot of that came from the opponent's scores in garbage time to make it look a little closer and they're maybe a bit more dominant. But they're able to put up points, and nothing indicates to me that they're not going to be able to against Western Kentucky. So going with South Alabama.
All right, Jordan, you agree?
And if you don't pick USA, I don't know what to tell you, okay? But I just think South Alabama has a better defense than Western Kentucky, and I think they're going to be able to stop them. And I think Southern Alabama's offense can compete and keep their own with this Western Kentucky offense that we've seen the last couple of years just put up crazy numbers. But I just think USA is a better team all around.
All right. What's to talk about next is the Baylor versus Air Force Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. They're in Fort Worth, Texas. To me, this is going to be an interesting matchup. Baylor kind of struggled to end this season and at 6-6. Air Force was at 9-3. Air Force started off 4-1, kind of struggled in between the season, and then won those last 4 games and looked pretty good doing it. Won the kind of military series between Navy and Army. So I'm picking Air Force. I think Air Force is going to come in here and win an aspired performance. So I got Air Force. Jordan? Jordan, you agree?
Oh, I agree. I think Air Force is just going to run the ball. They're going to run for 360,000 yards against Baylor. I don't know if Air Force really knows how to throw the ball more than 5 or 6 yards, but I just think Air Force, I don't know, they just look more complete this year running the ball. Their offensive line's been blocking really well, and their running back has just been getting crazy amount of yards. So I got Air Force with you on that one.
All right, Jess, you agree?
Yep, 100%. Baylor is reeling right now, 3-game losing streak. But I think that, I think they're gonna have that streak extended to 4.
All right, we all picked them. That means they're gonna win that game.
Yep,
So-
they're gonna lose now.
No way, they're gonna win. All right, listen, come on.
All right. Next up, we have Houston versus Louisiana in the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. They're in Shreveport, Louisiana. Houston was supposed to be really good this year, but they had a kind of forgetful season of 7-5. Louisiana was 6-6. They were able to kind of keep things going after head coach Billy Napier left to go to Florida. So we'll see here. Who do you guys have in this one? I'm going to go ahead and just go out on a limb and say Louisiana. I think they won it more. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like they do. So I'll say that they're going to win this. What do you say, Jess?
I think Houston wins this, and I don't think it's close. I think Houston blows the doors off of them.
Oh, okay. Jordan, you agree?
All right. I think no. I don't think Houston's going to be able to come into Louisiana and beat Louisiana.
Go in Louisiana and beat Louisiana.
Yeah, no,
in
you don't do that
Louisiana.
in a bowl game. All right. Houston's going to end the season like they started this season. I don't know how they started this season, but with a win. They're going to end the season like they started the second game of the season with a loss.
That's right. They're going to end the season like they ended the season with not looking good. So
Yeah, especially if it wasn't in Louisiana and it was any other place, give me Houston. But I think it's going to have the home crowd.
no, Houston's not that far away from Louisiana.
Hey,
I guess.
it's pretty far compared to
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Yes. Right. All right. Next up, we have Missouri at Wake Forest with finally a Power 5 matchup here in the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl there in Tampa, Florida. So Missouri needed a win over Arkansas in the regular season finale just to get here. But hey, they had some good contests. They almost beat Georgia this year. Wake Forest is fun. Hopefully this is future Notre Dame quarterback Sam Hartman's last performance there for Wake Forest before he decides to transfer. I'm saying that's what we're hoping for there in Irish land. With that being said, I think Wake Forest will win this one. Sam Hartman will want to get this final win in his final game, I think, for Wake Forest. Again, Missouri ended 6-6, Wake Forest 7-5, but I'll go with Wake Forest here. Jordan, do you agree, or do you have a different outcome?
No, I go with Wake Forest as well. Missouri lost their best wide receiver, and Missouri just, I don't know, they can't finish games. And it really, they finished their last game of the season, I would say, but they should have beat Georgia. They just didn't finish games really well. So I got Wake Forest. I think their offense is going to put up numbers like they did against Clemson and things like that.
All right, Jess. Agree?
I agree. Missouri has shown. Thanks, Jordan. Missouri, I just don't think they got it. Don't really have much to add. Jordan covered it pretty well.
All right. Let's go to my favorite bowl game if I was playing. It has the Hawaii Bowl there in Hawaii, even though it is on Christmas Eve. But this game will be played between San Diego State and Middle Tennessee. So San Diego State's coming in with the 117th in total offense, so not great there, and 5.22 yards a game. The Aztecs come in with the 27th ranked defense. So it's going to be interesting here. They have a good defense, not a great offense. Will they be able to grind this game out? I say they do, and they get the win over Middle Tennessee. Jess, what do you say?
I agree. I think it's going to be like a 21-17 kind of game. I don't think either team's going to be putting up a lot of points, and I think San Diego comes away with it.
All right, Jordan, do you agree?
Yeah, I got San Diego. I just think they're a better team. Hey, remember what happened last week when we did this? Okay, we picked the same. Oh yeah,
Odd numbers always cause issues,
Great. But San Diego State's gonna pull away in this Hawaii Easy Post Bowl.
All right. All right. A game, Jordan, you should be able to check out if you wanted to.
I
New
won't be
Mexico
home.
State at Bowling Green in the Quick Lane Bowl there in Detroit, Michigan, right in Jordan's area there. He could be a field reporter. Let us know how that game is on Monday, December 26th. Let me see. So, yeah, I would say this probably is more like a coin flip. It's going to be probably maybe high scoring in the 30s, close. I'll go with Bowling Green, but not feeling very confident and no real reason given. So, Jess, what do you say?
I'm going with New Mexico State.
Oh,
Just a feeling.
all right.
No real reason.
Jordan.
I'm going with Bowling Green, because they're closer to Detroit and they're gonna have more fans. And also,
I find that it's because they're closer to you, but
it's if I was home, I'd go to the game. $3 tickets. Okay, so.
Oh yeah, true. $3 tickets. All right. Next up, we have in the final game is Georgia Southern at Buffalo in the Camellia Bowl. So this will be led by obviously Clay Helton in his first year, full year for Georgia Southern against Buffalo. Both teams have fun, dynamic offenses. I say Georgia Southern finds a way to get this one, in a very close shootout, maybe a field goal to end. What do you say, Jess?
I'm going with Buffalo. I think that they just got a little bit more talent overall, and I mean it's
in Alabama though. I don't know if that
game.
sways you at all. It's in Alabama. That means it's going to be near Georgia Southern area. That helps.
I'm going with my gut on this one. Both teams 6-6. Neither one really blows you away, all things considered. So, but I'm gonna go Buffalo. BB, Buffalo Bulls, not to be confused with the Buffalo Bills.
The Bills Mafia. All right, Jordan, what do you say?
Give me Georgia Southern, for all the reasons you guys stated, besides Jess's reasons.
As you normally do. Well,
I can't. You picked Buffalo. I don't know. There's not. I don't know. I think Georgia Southern wants to finish out strong, and I think they just want to be able to compete.
Fair to Buffalo.
And Buffalo doesn't.
No. I'm pretty sure it's like Georgia Southern's like second or third year.
They're out of the cold. They're in Alabama. Maybe it'll be more motivated.
It's going to be 50 degrees in Alabama only.
Hey, that's 50 more than it's going to be here. It's going to be like negative degrees this weekend, man.
You're telling me.
No. Yeah, it's going to cold this week. It's where I'm at. It's like going to be 58 degrees on Friday and then 23 degrees on Saturday.
Saturday, it's -1.
For me here, it's 14.
Poor fools.
Wait, where I'm gonna be on Saturday? Let me see. It's going to be 4
degrees.
I mean, that's nothing compared to -1, Jordan. Okay.
Hey, I hope your hair freezes.
I have a lot, so it might, All right. That's it for the bowl games, guys. There's a lot. Obviously, we'll be back, and obviously the big bowl games are coming towards the end of December, so we'll have some better matchups to talk about. A lot of these teams, we didn't do as much watching or research on these teams as we have the other games throughout the year at the Power Fives.
I researched all these games. I don't know what you're talking about.
I researched the game. I'm talking about like in-depth watching every game.
Oh, I watched every game.
Okay, well. Outside of Jordan, we only did a little bit of watching, a little bit of research, because our big thing right now is, hey, it's transfer portal season, it's recruiting season, it's the big bowl game season, so we'll be interested to talk to you more about that in the next podcast. But as always, follow along with us on In the Flat Pod on Twitter, In the Flat Podcast on our website. And before we leave you, make sure you check out this ad from our advertisers and go out and check them out. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. All right, guys, I want to take a time out here from our discussion to talk to you about our first sponsor, BetterHelp. When we were considering a sponsor for the first time, I thought it was important to find one that is doing good for the world that could help our audience at the same time. The reason I thought BetterHelp was the ideal choice is due to the stigma around mental health and talking about it, not only in sports, but for our younger generation out there and our men for all ages across the world. As many people know, men do not like to talk about their feelings, and so I thought it'd be a good subject to bring up here on the podcast. I thought back to the story of Harry Miller, the former Ohio State lineman, who earlier this year outlined his struggle with depression, suicidal thoughts, and how he's had to work through those struggles to improve his mental health. How he struggled and didn't have an outlet. So I know there's a lot of similar situations going on out there. I've had them. I'm sure many of you've had them as well. That's where I think BetterHelp can come in, help with those feelings, and support you in your time of need.
So here at In the Flat, we want to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. And if you didn't know much about BetterHelp, help it's the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues.
To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you just talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, via text, chat, phone, video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you.
And if a therapist isn't right for you for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you can get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom picked for you. There's more scheduling flexibility and at a more affordable price. If this sounds like a solution you need, we are working with BetterHelp to offer you, our listeners, 10% off the first month of therapy when you sign up using our URL, betterhelp.com//in-the-flat. You could also see that here on our screen. Again, that's betterhelp.com/in-the-flat. So check it out today and send us your success stories we can highlight on air or in social media. Thank you, guys.